In a sport filled with unfortunate incidents, disasters, and bad luck, I have never seen in my life a fighter whose face carries more misfortune, misery, and ill fate than Tom Aspinall. Even though I do not believe in superstition, I see nothing in this man except bad omens. Since John Jones injured himself, took the interim heavyweight title, and then defended it, Tom has not seen a single happy day. And these are only brief snapshots of what he has endured over the past year and a half, without even mentioning the horrific injury he suffered in his first fight against Curtis Blades. He was banned from attending the UFC 309 press conference, which became the first spark in the deterioration of his relationship with the UFC. He went more than 450 days without fighting because of John stalling and Dana White clinging to hope. During that period, he also suffered a health scare. Then after losing what should have been the peak of his career as a professional athlete, he was forced to face the man John had finished in 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Shortly after, he announced that he would absolutely refuse to fight his close friend, Ante Delia, which only worsened his relationship with Dana.
You know what I think about that
Yes.
before you even ask me. I hate that.
He arrived at Fight Week in Abu Dhabi under enormous pressure, in a bad mood, constantly complaining about media obligations, and unwilling to hear anything related to John Jones.
Oh, I couldn't care less, to be honest. Honestly, he's the last person on my mind this week.
When he posted that clip with DC without permission, some fans began to turn against him. Then came the straw that broke the camel's back, a comment from his father, Andy, which ended any remaining hope of repairing his relationship with Dana.
The UFC do not pay anywhere near as much as the boxing does.
On fight night, under massive pressure to finish Gunn faster than John had, Tom fought the toughest round of his UFC career so far. Before the round ended, the same round in which we saw blood flowing from his nose for the first time, he suffered a double eye poke after multiple prior warnings from the referee to Gunn. Despite there being no visible cuts on the TV broadcast, we suddenly heard that Tom could not see, and he decided not to continue the fight. What should have been his first title defense turned into no contest. Amid violent and insulting reactions from the MMA community, many of his own fans turned against him. While he was on his way to the hospital, UFC President Dana White went out and publicly questioned his fighting spirit.
I mean, he had Tom bloodied up, and Tom didn't want to continue in the fight. So
later that night, after the attending doctor stated that there was no real damage to his eyes, instead of being relieved for his safety, fan outrage only grew. Tom was not spared even from criticism by fellow fighters in the division. Worst of all, amid all the gloating and mockery, John Jones, who had avoided Tom for more than a year, finally got his chance to ridicule him.
He immediately quit.
You see the pattern of it.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Even worse than that was Francis Ngannou, who had already lost credibility with fans, standing on Tom's side.
Yeah, I think it was a right call. It was a right decision. And I understand that people are frustrated.
Then, in a scenario straight out of a Hollywood script, Tom's close friend, Ante Delia, made a statement defending him, only for the night to end the Waldo Cortez apparently suffering an eye poke that looked like a knockout before the replay. Unlike Tom, Waldo chose to continue fighting and immediately finished Ante once the fight resumed, making Tom's image look far worse and doubling the online abuse directed at him. If you think everything you've heard so far sounds bad, that was only the introduction to what came next. Up until that point, we were talking about booking a comeback fight. Now we were talking about creating an interim belt in the division and asking the question, will Tom ever return to fighting? What initially looked like an unfortunate incident on the night of October 25 turned into an extremely positive event for the UFC. Fans became excited for a rematch after realizing that Gunn could actually provide a competitive fight for Aspinall. On top of that, the heavyweight division, which had arguably been the weakest at this point it has ever been, received a much-needed revival. First through drawing Dana White's attention to Gable and the matchmakers, then through the entry of Waldo Cortez. who made Tom's life far more difficult by replacing Spivak, who withdrew days before his fight with Shamil Gaziev in Doha. Waldo went on to destroy the Dagestani fighter. Without a doubt, he earned a place among the top 5 contenders. But unfortunately, what we thought would ignite the division turned into a complete disaster. After the night and after the doctor stated that there was nothing to worry about with Tom's eye, we expected a few weeks of recovery followed by an immediate announcement of a comeback fight, possibly at UFC 323, so Tom wouldn't be sidelined for a long time again. Despite worrying comments from Andy a few days after the injury saying that Tom still couldn't see properly, I didn't pay much attention. Assuming he was trying to calm angry fans, we convinced ourselves that Aspinall was fine and recovering well when Dana White said in his first interview since that night on his close friend Jim Rome's show that Tom was fine and the rematch would be booked as soon as possible. In hindsight, I was extremely naive to believe that Dana was speaking from knowledge and certainty, as no updates emerged regarding Tom's condition, and as he remained completely silent while John continued targeting him and accusing him of exaggerating his reaction. Dana appeared again on November 15, the night Islam won his second belt, admitting during the press conference that he had no idea about Tom's condition or a potential return date. At the time, it seemed the plan was for Tom to win the rematch, and then, despite trying to punish John, finally booked their fight on the White House lawn in what would be one of the biggest fights in sports history. For context, Dana was attempting to downplay Ngannou's statements about a potential fight, with John being the biggest ever. These were not official signs that Dana's anger toward John had faded, because that same week, Dana reverted to his old ways and once again revealed details of his issues with Ngannou. As days returned into weeks and a full month passed with no updates on Tom's condition except for John's continued mockery on social media, fans began asking the obvious question: where is Tom Aspinall and what happened to him? On November 30, after more than a month of complete silence, Aspinall uploaded a YouTube video by replaying Dana's post-fight comments questioning his will. In his first appearance, he wore sunglasses, hiding his eyes. He confirmed that he was still suffering from eye issues and was undergoing medical tests. And to prevent fans from calling him a liar, he shared official diagnostic documents. He said he wasn't surprised by how the fight unfolded or by Gann's ability to reach him. In a controversial statement, he accused Gann of intentionally poking him in his eyes. For the first time, he broke out of his humble persona and attacked Cyril directly. Then came the decisive moment, his response to Dana White. The video ultimately turned sad when he revealed that surgery might be necessary and that he was currently banned from training. This fighter, who had already sat out for a year and a half during the peak of his athletic performance, could not even enter the gym. The video ended without any clear timeline for recovery or return. At the same time, he posted official medical documents on Instagram showing that he suffers from Brown syndrome, in addition to eye tissue damage, double vision, and numerous other diagnoses, despite maintaining a sense of humor and calling Gann the biggest cheater, even posting full footage of a clinic visit. Fans still didn't believe him, and the abuse only intensified. I genuinely don't understand how he went from being the beloved fighter John avoided last year to one of the most hated figures in the sport today. Sadly, some people even went as far as denying the medical report without any evidence, including people I personally know. I believe this massive attack, despite all the evidence Tom provided, ultimately transformed him from the good guy into the villain. The first step when you oppose Dana White and the UFC is appearing on an interview with Ariel Helwani, and that's exactly what Tom did 2 days later in his first interview since UFC 321. In that interview, he revealed everything, likely ending any remaining hope of repairing his relationship with Dana White and the UFC. He began by addressing fan backlash, then spoke about his eyes, which unfortunately were not improving. He revealed the possibility of undergoing surgery on both eyes and criticized the UFC for sending him to NMC hospital, stating that proper treatment only began after returning to the UK. He apologized to DC for leaking private messages, said he wasn't bothered by his father's comments, denied being hurt by Gann's strikes, renewed his accusations of cheating, and expressed deep disappointment in Dana White for questioning his will to fight, praising Gan after the fight, and speaking about Tom's health without ever contacting him. He also criticized the UFC as an organization for failing to care for him adequately. When he spoke again about his eyes, the outlook was not promising at all. He then addressed John's childish mockery before confirming that the nice guy he used to be is gone, leaving open the possibility that he may never return to fighting. Yet every time he speaks, the attacks against him escalate. Some people still don't believe he is suffering from eye injuries and may need surgery, including close friends of mine who continue to accuse him of running away on October 25. After the last PPV with ESPN, Dana White attended the press conference as usual, nearly 4 days after Tom's statements. Dana still hadn't contacted him. You could read the dishonesty in his eyes. That same night, we were reminded of the incompetence of UFC doctors who had previously misdiagnosed Pantoja's injury as a shoulder dislocation. Days later, Dana appeared in another interview on Mac Life, where Oscar strangely never mentioned Tom, as if Dana had forbidden it. Dana also changed parts of his fictional story regarding Ngannou. Since then, there have been no updates on Tom's relationship with Dana or the UFC. Meanwhile, Tom's life continued to unfold. For the first time, he posted a very harsh response to Gan, who was complaining about the lack of a rematch date. He further damaged his relationship with Dana by expressing interest in switching to boxing to face Ngannou. Despite being limited to weightlifting due to his inability to train, his mental state improved. He underwent surgery on his worst eye, with a second surgery scheduled for the other eye. The goal of both procedures is to eliminate his double vision. In an interview with his close friend Adam Catterall, whom John refused to face, Tom sent a strong message to Cyril Gane, giving us a glimmer of hope that he hasn't given up on returning to fighting. Still, after 2 years of inactivity, the heavyweight division remains hostage to surgical outcomes and uncertainty. No one knows its future, not even Dana himself. What we do know is that Alex Pereira wants to move up and capture a third divisional title, something never achieved in UFC history. But with no clear return date for Tom, even he doesn't know when he'll fight again. As months pass with no clarity, we are left asking, do we need an interim heavyweight title while the real champion recovers? That leads to another question. Does Pereira really want to fight for an interim belt while chasing a historic achievement? Honestly, I don't know what's going through his mind right now, aside from the remaining of Brian Ortega. From the outside, you can criticize Aspinall's decision to stop fighting on October 25, and you can deny his need for surgery if you ignore the clear medical reports. But the moment you feel your vision is at risk, the moment you fear losing the most precious thing you own, your eyes. And examples like Michael Bisping and Sharabuddin Magomedov are more than enough to remind us of the dangers of fighting with an injured eye.